If you're watching this video on the NES YouTube channel, there's more information and useful links in the description below.
So my name's Keith Dow and I am a senior educator in our post-registration and continuing professional development team, and I work alongside Linda and Leslie around a myriad of things, but in particular one of the things is our career framework, which we're delighted to be discussing today, and hopefully you've had a chance to see, and if not, that you might go and explore it after this session. What we are going to discuss today eventually is the career development framework. And part of that is the 4 pillars of practice, as Linda will discuss in a wee bit more depth in relationship to the healthcare support worker element of the framework. But it's my job to set the scene and give an overview, because I've probably been around this tool for quite some time, but in particularly the post-registration aspect of it. We're going to cover what the career framework actually is. We'll hopefully get an opportunity to look at who it's for, what it can be used for, and we also have some supplementary resources that can help people to use it, and ultimately where to find it so that you can go off and explore it for yourself. But what the career framework actually is it's an overarching resource that essentially consists of 2 components. So one of which is the learning framework for healthcare support workers, and one of which is the career development framework. Now, they both used to sit as very separate entities and were used, as you can imagine, very separately. However, the post-registration career development framework, as it was previously known, was really needing a refresh for a variety of different reasons. So there was lots of work done with the stakeholders, looking at how we could refresh it, how we could restructure it, how we could represent it in its digital format. And during those discussions, we actually thought that this was a really good opportunity for us to look at a full career pathway. So we speak in the career development framework or the career framework, or the development framework, whatever you want to call it, we speak about levels of practice, particularly levels 2 to levels 8. Now, one of the pitfalls of speaking about levels and numbers is that people do tend to relate these to agenda for change, but just to reiterate, the development framework and the levels associated with it are not associated with agenda for change, so they don't necessarily relate to pay bands. There is some correlation, but they're very, very different things. So we like to get that bit out the way. So one of the things we looked at is how do we develop a pathway from level 2 to level 8 with the frameworks we have. Now, there was lots of great work done around the healthcare support worker learning framework, and we certainly didn't feel the need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So what we looked at is refreshing the post-registration element of it, and then looking at how we could combine the 2 together. What we looked at, again, is these 2 very separate entities, but then this bridging element in the middle. So this whole new document brings them both together and looks at how we can bridge the gap between the 2. So there is information and resources now that show how you can travel from the healthcare support worker element of the development framework to the post-registration. Now, if you don't know, that involves a programme of study. There is a qualification that is required in terms of you to gain a professional registration. But what we do hope is that the resources that we've framed around this will help showcase how people can do that. Now, of course, some people don't want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. The development framework is not necessarily about career progression in terms of promotional elements. And actually what we often speak about is people can use these resources for horizontal progression. So it's essentially about enhancing the components of your role, not necessarily pushing them beyond your limits. But we like to think that we've captured enough resources, and the framework gives an idea of how you can do both if you want to. So our post-registration career development framework is now defunct, and we have the career development framework, and it's linked to the healthcare support worker element via this bridge. But we're really wanting to focus on the healthcare support worker element of it, so I'll hand over to our resident expert of that. It's Linda Tripney.
Thanks very much for giving us that overview, Keith. I'm going to focus on, as you say, the healthcare support worker learning framework aspect of this framework. So some of you may have seen these before, you may have attended some of your sessions before, but this is going to be a quick introduction to what the framework is and what it means for you. So who is the framework for? It's for any support worker working in a clinical healthcare support worker role across nursing, midwifery or allied health. Now, it could be easily adapted to any job family. If we took that clinical skills pillar away, that big green pillar there, and we replaced it with finance or business and admin or catering, this framework could be adapted to any specific role. But what it does is it identifies how complex and important the support worker role is in today's NHS. As you can see for the pillars here, it depicts levels 2, 3 and 4 roles with different pillar sizes. What we're saying to you is, your role isn't all about clinical skills. Although you might think that's what you do, you also do these other pillars of practice. You also facilitate learning. You also have a leadership aspect to your role, and you also do service improvement, whether you recognise that or no. What these pictures depict is what the differences could be between the different roles. They'll have to make it quite clear right away. These pillars are empty. There's nothing behind these pillars. That's for you or your manager to start to populate what the differences are between these roles, what's required in your role, because in every area and every role, these pillars will be different. So it's identifying how your role broaches all of these pillars. You'll really focus on the clinical skills. If I was to ask you what you do, I do supporting individuals to mobilise, I do blood pressures, I do supporting individuals to eat and drink. They're all very clinical skills. But what I would say to you is you also have a facilitating learning aspect to your role. You will regularly be supporting colleagues, student nurses, families and carers and patients themselves how to learn. You also have a leadership aspect to your role. You might not think that. I was at an event and we said to a room full of 200 people, who thinks they're a leader? Half a dozen people put their hand up. There was a session delivered on leadership and what that means to you in your role. Now that might be self-leadership, how you manage yourself and how you influence change. But at the end of that session, they said again, who sees themselves as a leader? 99% of that room, then people actually saw themselves as a leader because the leadership concept was explained what it meant for their role. So you definitely have a leadership role. And service improvement, every time you go to somebody and say, that's not working right, could we try this? That is service improvement. It isn't all about audits, it's about the small changes you can see and suggest changes for because you're so close to things on the front line. So you can see for those pillars that at different levels, you'll have different responsibility and aspects of those roles at different levels. But the easiest way to start using this framework for you is to have that important discussion, your PDPR annual discussion with your manager, if possible. So what can the framework be used for? It can support you to fully develop in your clinical career. It can help you to understand and prepare for a higher banded post. So if you see a post that's advertised, say it's a level 4 post or a level 3 post, and it's asking for aspects of service improvement, you can identify that area, and it's an area for development within your personal development plan, and undertake learning to support that. So when another post comes up, you then have that knowledge and understanding service improvement that you can use to go for that job. It helps you to make informed choices about your learning. That important discussion you hopefully have with your manager every year. What matters to you in your job? What have I really enjoyed doing this year? And what would I like to achieve in my job or career? And that's when using the framework, you can say, okay, I've really got great clinical skills, but I think I could develop further in facilitating learning. That's an area I would really like to develop. So you identify the areas for your development that's relevant for you. How can my manager use this? Because your manager can use this as well to support you. There's a manager's guide that's also available. Are they clear about the differences between a level 2, 3 and 4 support worker? What skill mix is right for the team? We've facilitated sessions where managers have said, we're starting this new team, we've got a new team starting up, we don't know what we need, we don't know what skills we need across the piece. We can go in with these blank pillars and say, well, what do you think your level 2 support worker would do? And they start to populate the pillars with what they think people should be doing at that level. And if you start at one level, it's easy to build up. Well, the level 3 should do that, and the level 4 should do that bit more. So it can build up a team structure as well. How can it help your manager, support you to engage with learning? And how can it be used with the PDPR conversations? Inside are those questions to ask and support the facilitated conversation with your manager. You can come with information about what you think your learning is, and your manager has that idea of what you're talking about, where you're coming from, and what's available. So Keith mentioned earlier the bridge. The bridge is information that can help you move from the support worker learning framework to undertake a registered course, a course that would lead to registration, and you then join the second part of the framework and work through that. We have support workers coming to us at events and saying, oh, I'd love to become a registered practitioner, but I don't know how, I don't know where to find the information, I don't know what's available. So what the bridge does, it gives information on what is available. So there's really clear pathways for support staff who want to progress to a registered role. In nursing, there's really clear pathways, really defined and long-standing pathways. You can undertake an HNC, either at college or facilitated by your board. Many boards offer that now. And then you progress into year 1 or 2 of the nursing degree programme. There's also the option of the Open University programme, which is a 4-year part-time programme, which can be undertaken while you continue to work as a support worker. So these are really clearly defined roles for nursing. Midwifery, a wee bit more complex. There's a Midwifery Care Assistant Award or the HNC, but you have to have additional national qualifications like Hires, 1 or 2 Hires. But it's really important to check with the university you're thinking about applying to before you make any decisions about that and plan how you can achieve these. AHP roles, not just as clearly defined, but again, there's a lot of work going on in the background currently with AHP roles, and they're looking at pathways and what options are available. But at the moment, there's a really clear pathway for occupational therapy. People can undertake the HNC in occupational therapy and access the occupational therapy degree programme. There's also information on funding, the bursary schemes, what options are available for you, and where to get information. And this is a big decision to take. I'm going to undertake this role. It has financial implications, it has future progression implications. So it's important to talk to other support workers who've maybe undertaken this programme. Speak to your manager, speak to your practice development team, speak to your family, because it could have an impact on them as well. But no, everybody wants to progress down this route. So although the framework's really important and it gives us information for people who want to progress, it's equally important for people who want to remain in role, because it gives them an opportunity to identify development that can help them within their current role. So it's a fairly flexible framework. There are a few resources that can support you whilst you're using the framework. So you've had the discussion with your manager, you've identified that you'd like to develop some facilitating learning skills and knowledge, and your manager says, would you just go away and have a wee look for things? Well, we've thought about that. If you click on the Learning Activities tab here, where it's highlighted in blue, it'll take you to the website where there's actually resources have been developed around the 4 pillars of practice. Now, currently 2 of them are populated, the other 2 are in development and will be coming soon. So you've decided you want to undertake some learning around facilitating learning. You go into this site, you click on the facilitating learning pillar. It'll identify learning that's available. You can either start from the beginning and work through to the end of the resource, or you can dip in and out of what areas you think would be relevant for you. There's opportunities to record your learning throughout in workbook type situations where you're responding to some of the reflective pieces and some of the knowledge pieces. To tie in with that, it's really important that you maintain a professional portfolio. Why, you say? Why would I keep a professional portfolio? I'm so busy, I've got other things to do. The professional portfolio can help you within your career progression. You're looking at professional portfolio on the TURAS site, and it's the recognition of prior learning option you're looking for. Why would you do it? If you're thinking of undertaking a course in the future, what you can do, if you've recorded your learning, you can present that to a college or university and say, look, this is what I've done before. And they go, fantastic, you didn't need to do X, Y, and Z of the course you're undertaking. So there's that option of recognition of prior learning moving forward into another course. But equally, if a job's advertised and it said, qualified to Scottish Credit Qualification Framework Level 6, or can demonstrate you're working at that level, if you didn't have that recognised qualification at level 6, which could be an SVQ, but you are definitely working at that level and you can demonstrate it by presenting the information in your portfolio, that could go towards your application for that job and make you eligible to apply. If you click on the portfolio link, once you've got these slides, you can go to the portfolio part of TURAS. There's short videos about how to register for the portfolio and how to use the portfolio and the benefits of that. But these are just a couple of the resources that are available.
So useful links. There is an animation. We had hoped to show it today, but we were a bit anxious that the technology might have failed us, particularly with so many people on it. The career framework link there is itself. If you Google NES career framework, it will take you there as a first hit usually, but you will find it via that link there as well. We mentioned your local education staff. Never forget human resources. That's what these people are out there for. The Support Worker Central site, which is a raft of information. It's a phenomenal hub for learning, and you'll find that on TURAS. And Linda's mentioned the professional portfolio. I would advocate that as well. It's a great resource, really, really useful resource to manage your learning for life. And you'll see all the stay connected stuff that will be sent out to you. So the specific mailbox for our healthcare support worker team. There's a regular newsletter. If you haven't got a TURAS account, there's information on how to sign up for a TURAS account. Newsletters again, links to future, there's a variety of different stuff you'll be able to access there. And there's also guidance on how to set up a portfolio if you don't have one already. The TURAS portfolio is not just for registered staff, it's for all staff working in Scotland. What you will find is that it can vary from person to person depending on their profession. So as a registered nurse, my portfolio would look slightly different to say a healthcare support worker. So, but fundamentally they're all the same and they all live in the same place. So they're open to all.